You can also have a legacy system that needs to be restarted every weekend because otherwise it's not going to run on Monday.
We are certified by SAP. We support Archive Link, everybody knows. We support SAP DMS. We support SAP attachments. So you see, the huge thing is simply because we are certified by SAP and we support all of them instead.
And then you will have one which will have to be as performant as the rest. And I must admit that I was feeling also comfortable because we had lovely technology, kind of special system core, World Wide Web, blah, 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 blah license for something that costs more than I have ever seen or imagined.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. You remember the last client.
Hello. My name is Michał Maczewski. I represent PrimeForce Poland, company focusing on enterprise content management. I have been doing that myself for the last 20 years or so. I consider myself an expert in this area.
Hi, my name is Holger Strack. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. I work for PrimeForce and I have more than 25 years of experience in the ECM market.
Hello, my name is Volker Bläsig. I'm from Munich, Germany. And my profession is to integrate ECM and cloud storage to SAP systems. I did this for 25 years.
Why should you consider even talking to us? To be very honest, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that there is quite a huge number of aspects that we could at least try to discuss. You may have documents flying around between your desks, the paper ones, because there are some customers, and to be honest, that's nothing to be ashamed of, right? So you're busy with doing your business and you never had time to digitalize. But if you want to think about blockchains and AIs and stuff, then, well, I'd rather get rid of the paper. You can also have a legacy system that needs to be restarted every weekend because otherwise it's not going to run on Monday. Or perhaps you have a very mature system and the last living person being able to maintain that is about to retire. Okay, this is quite likely. We've migrated from core systems where one of the primary reasons of the migration was not that the system was not working well, but the lack of personnel being able to run that. Because, well, there aren't too many COBOL developers anymore, and even ChatGPT will not help you with that. Trust me.
When we talk about AI, we have to think first of how does SAP see AI? As ECM systems do have one. Maybe you think, no, should we have both of them? And I think yes, by the way. SAP, on the long run, you have to think where you're coming from. Most companies, they started with ECC6, so with the ERP system. Then the first big challenge might be to make the step over to S/4HANA. So to keep always up with technology. If you're in S/4HANA, there's the next question, are you going to the cloud, to the public cloud? Are you to the private cloud? Do you do on-prem? And in this environment, you have to find a new way of your strategy. And we fit in this environment. SAP Clean Core means you leave your SAP system as is in standard. You don't change. You don't have too many customizations. And if you walk this way, then you are ready to go with all these new extensions. Now, again, why do we fit in here? That was the question. And I think Aquilink is exactly what you need there. You use the SAP existing standard core functionality to connect your external system, the ECM system, the cloud storage. And when you do this close to the SAP standard, clean core, then you have the chance to utilize on the SAP side the AI functionality as well as the functionality on the living content side, the ECM system, which has also AI. Now let's talk about Aquilink. Aquilink is our product that integrates SAP with ECM and online storage systems. For ECM, let's name Naxeo, for example, and online storage, let's name S3 systems or S3 compatible systems. What is the product? The product is a container that you install in your environment, and of course you can install many containers. And it communicates with SAP on the one side and the other side, storage and ECM. Now what can we do? We are certified by SAP. We support Archive Link, everybody knows. We support SAP DMS. You support SAP attachments. And all the related scenarios. For Archive Link, you can do data archiving, you can do print list archiving, incoming, outgoing documents. So you see, the huge thing is simply because we are certified by SAP and we support all of them in standard. Second, we can exchange metadata bidirectional, meaning for content-related information, we can connect back to SAP, retrieve information via Java connector or OData services. Also the other way around, from the ECM system back to SAP. So this is in a nutshell the basic integration that we do. In addition, we enable SAP WebDAV, which means we can do also SAP ILM. And last but not least, we are available, of course, for the ECC6 environment, for the S4HANA environment, for the S4HANA private cloud, and in future also for the public cloud. And on the GUI side, we do SAP GUI, Web GUI, and of course the Fiori. So in a very rough nutshell, that's ArchiLink. You see, we have a broad feature set that we support, and the technical benefits, we don't install anything on your SAP system. We use standard, we are standardized, and we are certified by SAP. So at the end, SAP is a standard system and you should follow the standards. This is why SAP also has the chance to certify external products that integrate to SAP. And yes, ArchiLink is certified, which gives you a chance to use a lot of SAP standard options based off such a certified integration. So from my point of view, standards is key for this one. Next one is whenever you have a standard, it's much easier to implement. So we have fast implementation times and you reduce complexity because, you have a clear path forward, and the sum of this is a return on investment that is simply faster than other solutions. So very often these SAP integrated systems have been growing over years. So you made the purchase decision 5, 10, 20 years ago, and landscape has changed. So you have to take these old systems, these legacy systems that might be heavily customized, that are changing a lot to the SAP standard, and you have to do all these steps in your upgrade to S4HANA, to cloud, to all these things. So if you migrate, you go back to the clear core standard of SAP, and all these following steps are much easier. So ArchiLink is clean core. ArchiLink does not have any code that you'll transport to your SAP system. We are just using the standard interfaces, and that's why we are really standard. And all the following things, like I mentioned before, less complexity, fast implementation times, they follow in this reduced return on investment. We don't talk about the users and make it complex. And last but not least, just to mention this, we have the chance to integrate to an ECM system. We talked about this. But not all documents are really needed to be stored in an, let me say, ECM system. Some information, like data archive information, like also invoices that don't change anymore, you can store it to cloud storage. So we give you the chance to decide where you will move your documents out of one product.
You have a huge archive, and it's the backbone underneath your SAP system. And it's currently connected with the archive link, whatever kind of legacy ECM system you are using. The thing is, the legacy ECM systems has their challenges the bigger your archive gets. So you have to switch. And also the costs will drive you there. So you need a new connector to a new archiving system. And Naxio is the obvious only choice on the market if it comes to huge archives. And the second choice will be Acculink, as it is the standardized connect to the SAP system.
What do I like about Acculink and Naxio integration? Well, first of all, Acculink is the only integration that supports Archive Link, which lets you archive your data in SAP. What I also like is that it's really working, because we have proven that with our largest by now implementation of SAP archivization with Naxio. So it's working with billions of documents and it's working really well. Perhaps because Primeforce was involved in implementing that, because we supported Pro in implementing the connector. So maybe that's kind of personal thing to me, but I must say this is a really great platform. So if you think that your existing implementation, well, needs upgrades, consider this one. I have been working with different ECM platforms over the last 20 years. So I've implemented different projects with Documentum, with Alfresco, with FileNet. And don't get me wrong, they're great platforms. I think that SharePoint is a fantastic platform, but not in all cases it's really the proper one to be used. And Naxio is something that is really future-proof. So it's not a platform that needs to be compatible with the changes that somebody has implemented 20 years ago. So the technical depth that there is, obviously there is, because it's a mature solution. But on the other hand side, it's a young platform. And it's based on standards. It's based on MongoDB. It's based on Kafka. It's based on Elasticsearch or OpenSearch if you want to implement that. So if you're looking for a robust and long-term solution, then Naxio certainly is something that you should consider. And what I always explain to our German-speaking customers is that Naxio macht Spaß, which means that working with the platform is fun. And it really is. What is the sweet spot that we as Primeforce have? I would say that we have two areas that we are really comfortable with. The first one is that when there is chaos, because we are really, really good at bringing chaos into something that is controllable. Because at the end of the day, you need to understand that regardless of what you do, you are managing documents. Now consider insurances. What does an insurance company do? It produces documents and it collects documents. If you happen to have broken your leg, you will send what? Documents from your doctors, from your hospitals, from your x-rays and so on. This is a document that needs to be managed properly. And if the insurance company sends out the money to the insured or injured person, this is also going to be confirmed by a what? A document, right? So if you don't have a proper backbone to manage this, then, well, I don't believe that organization will be very, very performant. So this is certainly one. The other one is when you have legacy systems, like Documentum. I must admit that Documentum was one of the greatest platforms I have ever worked with. I really loved it. And it's still a very good solution, don't get me wrong, but its days will come to an end. And you will have to replace that with something. And, well, one of the best choices that I can think of would be, in many cases, maybe not all, but in many cases, it would be Naxio. So Highlands Naxio is a robust platform. It's a very modern platform without long technical debt, with a fantastic cloud-ready stack. Okay? But cloud-ready doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go to cloud immediately. But you can benefit from all the features that the cloud technologies bring, like horizontal scaling. And also, if you want to go into the cloud in the future, you are ready. Okay? You don't need to think too much on how to pack your solution into a container and send it to Kubernetes somewhere. You just do it, right? Because it is a cloud native solution.
So dream customers, from my point of view, there might be different one. The first one, of course, are the customers that have these legacy systems, because then it's easy to show the value that we have migrating from these legacy systems that are complex, that are heavily changed in the SAP standard. OpenText has a long history, is a good product, but at the end, it has built a lot of additional things around the standard. And from my point of view, this is not the really clean core anymore. So this might be one good option. And the other one, of course, is that has at least also integration already based on standards like Archive Link that we easily can migrate to our environment with our standard product. Hi, Michael.
Oh, yes.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Hi, Holger. Hey, Holger.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's always good to meet friends, colleagues.
And talk about customers.
And sometimes I still with our orchestras, yes, that's full things we have done at Geist.
Now let's talk about the project. So we had the pleasure to be part of a really big project where you implemented an SAP Naxeo environment where we have more than 1 billion documents, I think, that are really related to SAP only. I think it was a big challenge to do the migration of these documents from the former system to Naxeo and keep it always live in SAP without any interruption.
I had the pleasure to be the lead architect on the project. One of the challenges that we've had was that we migrate from multiple document repositories into a single Naxeo system, which itself poses quite a challenge, right? Because you had, 7 or 10 systems, and then you will have one which will have to be as performant as the rest. And I must admit that I was feeling also comfortable because we had the lovely technology, Naxeo, being a perfect candidate for this kind of situations. And the migration as such was really, really nice. We were able to import up to 4, maybe 5 million documents per hour.
Exactly. The limiting factor was not the speed of Naxeo or Akilink. The limiting factor was how much pressure we could bring into the existing network of the customer to enable him that he could still work with his existing legacy system. And the second limitation factor was how much you could normalize in its existing database to export it to Naxeo. So the limiting factors lies on that side where you don't like to invest because you're afterwards shutting it down. And
so what was the overall runtime of more than 1 billion documents to be migrated?
The overall runtime for 99.99% of this 1.1 billion records was 42 days netto. Why netto? Because there was not uninterrupted time where we could utilize the network, the databases, and all the necessary transport infrastructure fully. So we have had to stop sometimes migrating. So netto time, 42 days.
Which is cool, I think, for this amount of documents. And were there any interruptions for the end users in SAP? Could they always access the documents? So were there any downtime?
There were the downtime at the weekend where we cut it over all 18 systems which were connected to
one repository.
And what's also interesting, some customers or some end users used to have issues accessing the documents, and we're able to solve these problems because now the access time is quite constant and we don't have this kind of hiccups that sometimes it takes longer to access the documents that your customer on the phone is waiting for. This is absolutely fantastic, and I think this is one of the major improvements for the end users. And maybe one question from my side, because you are the product manager of this.
I have the pleasure now to be the responsible counterpart for all the additional things to come. You know, there are some
Absolutely.
and additional migrations in planning and also some additional projects on top. But there is also the point where it's about the daily operations. So we are not only providing the implementation and the migration, we as Prime Force have to run it for 8 years. And
What's awesome?
till today, we went live at the 26th of October. Since then, we have had 0 Naxio-related downtimes. There were downtimes because database systems were not available or networks were not available or other things where the customer asks us to be on the safe side and shut down. But Naxio-related, for patching, for delivering anything, we have had 0 downtimes till today.
What is the greatest benefit for the customer by having implemented this solution?
Well, they urge for stability and availability. Think of that legacy system they have had before. When you have to upgrade that to a newer version, it sometimes took longer than a normal weekend was with a full downtime.
And now we do the upgrades by the rolling restarts.
We are doing them with rolling restarts, and maybe the shift to LTS 2025, we have to do a blue-green update, which effectively is also without interruption for the end user.
So now we were talking about these huge migrations. I think, or I know that we have also smaller implementations. So anything that you have in mind that you want to give customers that might not have 1 billion of documents, but maybe some hundreds, thousands or millions?
Well, there are other systems on the market if you are talking hundreds of thousands or low 7-digit numbers of documents, which are quite properly. But if you are in the region of 50 million or plus documents, there is only one new market outside the regulated world which is capable of doing it. Naxio and Akilink are licensed on server usage.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether 15,000 employees are able to access your data. It doesn't matter whether you may be forced by the German government that you have to make records available to your 8.5 million health insured members. And then someone of these legacy guys comes to you and say, hey, you have to relicense from 15,000 licenses to 8.5 million licenses.
We have seen that.
We have seen that.
Yeah. So I would say that we would obviously invite all the customers to come to speak to us about the archiving of the documents that they have. But I think the greatest advantage that we as PrimeForce and AcquiPro can bring are the large enterprises. So if you run a large archive, a large SAP system, which you need to make sure that it's working in the future, please come to us and perhaps there are some challenges that we can help you with.
Speak to us. Why you are telling all these people to contact us?
Because I think
I know you think, but what's the value for them?
we can really help them.
Do
I told yes, absolutely. I mean, we've seen so many times that people are just sitting there on technology that can help them, but is just left useless, and we help them leveraging that.
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, there is also support. We are really good at it.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if they should call us, really.
well, I told you before, me neither, because we may or we may not find a solution for them. But, well, in the majority of cases, we were. So I would say that they should speak to us.
Yeah, do you remember the last client? They were so surprised. They can economize, really.
Yeah, I mean, using this technology that we provide can really help. And basically, it's not the cheapest one because, for example, Naxio is not cheap.
It's not. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but it can really help businesses.
Especially if you're going with volumes of documents.
Yes, that's certainly one thing. But what's really great about Maxo is that it's not user based license. So you can have, let's say, 5,000 internal users, and you can also expose your documents to everybody over the internet using the same platform license, which is not necessarily the case with the competition, where you would need to have some kind of special system core World Wide Web blah 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 license for something that costs more than I have ever seen or imagined.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You remember the last client? It was more than 140,000 licenses.
Yeah.
And for them, it was a huge difference.
It was because we could solve that with 2 instances of Maxio, and
Exactly.
and it just solved the problem.
Exactly. That's amazing. Okay, so I believe it's worth to contact us.